Republicans in Western Massachusetts, they do exist. And while they're in the minority here, some longtime Republican Party members say that the election of Donald Trump has more people interested in towing the party line. I sat down with Republicans Sid Starks and Kevin Jourdain to get a better understanding of where the party is today.
Obviously, we won the White House, which was a major victory in 2016, and a major accomplishment by the Republican Party, certainly driven by, a strong and dynamic individual in President Trump. So we control both houses of Congress and a majority of the Supreme Court. We control the most governorships that the Republican Party has ever controlled, as well as the most state legislatures. Here in Massachusetts, we have Governor Baker, but we need to do a lot better at the state legislative level.
Sid, you've been involved in Republican Party politics for a number of years. Yes. The way that the party is right now, would you say that it is the Republican Party as you have known it for years, or is the party different now?
Well, the party's always evolving, but still you have those core values that are not going away.
How would you define them?
Well, the family tradition. I always say we try to live our life on faith, family, and friends. I mean, you go back to it. If the first three are in order, the family tradition, fiscally conservative. You want every dollar accounted for. Overall, in Massachusetts, the people are seeing that. And it's no longer, I'm a JFK Democrat, I'm voting Democrat. They're looking at their pocketbook and saying, we're actually making money now, especially since Trump has come into office, don't you think?
Yeah.
And with that, I've got business owners in my business coming to me and saying, I can take care of my employees now. I want to help them. The business owners are going to take care of the healthcare crisis. The community is. It's about we the people. It's not about the government.
I think that there is a clear divide within the Republican Party right now. That's those who support President Trump, sort of see what he's doing and fully agree with it, as I think that you've indicated you do, and those who don't. What can you say, or what have you recognized about that division, those who support President Trump in the party and those who don't, but still identify as Republicans?
Well, I was a delegate at the last national convention. I've been a delegate to numerous of them, and I've never seen the party so united behind President Trump. I think this is really overplayed.
There are a number of people. There was a Republican strategist, Steve Schmidt, who was on NPR earlier this week.
Yeah.
He was.
And Steve Schmidt is on MSNBC and NPR, and that's his day job, is to be the contrarian Republican.
And so, but for a long time, he was very much in step, whether it was John McCain or President George W. Bush, with Republican tenets. So, and he describes himself still as a Republican. So what would you say about, he says that he's still a Republican. He wants to believe in those three F's that you point out, but clearly something's different for him and other Republicans.
Keep in mind, it's easy to place blame. It's tougher to take responsibility. I think a lot of people with President Trump, he's a business owner. He's very successful. It's not politics as usual. He sees a problem. He's going after it. It doesn't matter that, he irritates the Republicans or the Democrats. It's the fact that he came in and he's looking to help take care of the people. The immigration issue, that's been on the table for decades. And it's easy to blame the man on the top. And we're joking, you usually have a target on you and get blamed for everything. But look at Congress. Congress, both sides of the aisle, have had decades to fix this problem. And have they? No, they point fingers, they blame at each other.
But to your point, President Trump right now is clearly pointing the finger at Democrats when you look at this issue of immigration and, separating children from their parents at the border. President Trump this morning on the radio said it's the Democrats' problem.
Well, they created the law, and number two is, it's like them taking the fake photos of kids in cages, and then it turns out the photos are from 2014 during the Obama administration, and then it's the fake news that then tries to pin that to President Trump. What is going on there, it's all a stunt for the midterms, that they're basically taking photos, manipulatively speaking, in order to gin up this notion that this is all new, that this wasn't occurring before, when in fact the president is trying to say, no, I'm not going to just let you take some kid, run across the border, and then say, I'm here for asylum. It doesn't work that way. That we need to enforce the laws, and we need a comprehensive immigration policy that we need Congress to adopt, and we need both parties to get together to finally solve it. What you have now is midterm finger pointing.
You touched on something exactly that I want to talk about, and we talked about it with Democrats on the program as well, is your point about the divisiveness of politics right now. Whether that's Democrat or Republican, not a whole heck of a lot is getting done.
No. Right.
And so how do you think that the parties can come together to actually affect some change?
Well, actually, I wish they would get rid of the top 5 Democrats and top 5 Republicans, because
what do you think that would do?
that would take a lot of the ego out of it, a lot of the old-style politics. You'll have fresh, again, we can't get on term limits, but you'd have fresh blood in there, people that want to get things done, hopefully. Again, we go back to President Trump. He was a fresh face coming in. He had no alliances to Republicans or Democrats. I think Charles Krauthammer called him a pragmatic. You know, he sees a problem, he wants to get it done. We need congressional leaders that aren't worried about stuffing their coffers and getting reelected and saying, let's solve the problem. And it can be done.
You know, you two are Republicans here in Western Massachusetts, which I don't know if you've noticed, tends to trend blue.
Really?
I know. Shocking, right?
Yes.
What is that like, being in the political minority, excuse me?
I see a lot of Republicans in Massachusetts stealth supporters. They're working to get the job done. But to avoid the fight and to avoid the grandstanding from different political parties, they're stealth. They don't publicize
So do you
the
think
fact
there
that
are more Republicans living in this region that maybe don't talk about it?
More citizens in Massachusetts with conservative values and family values that don't have to stand in front of a camera or don't have to go on social media and blame everybody else, the other side, if you will, for all the problems in America. They just want the problem solved.
Have you seen changes then since President Trump has been elected? Are more people coming out to either, you know, I know that you have lots of get out the vote efforts and you're trying to recruit people actively to the Republican Party here in Western Mass, which was, you know, we just said in the minority.
Right.
Are you seeing more people willing to come out and have a chat about this?
Well, I know in 2016 we had an unprecedented amount of people come to the 1st Congressional District caucus to elect the delegates to the Republican National Convention. And I would say also, you know, President Trump did get 1/3 of the vote in Massachusetts, considering he never campaigned in the state. And it was, you know, the states are basically written off, whether it's red or blue. It's like the Democrats don't go to Alabama. You know, you're in these situations, unless you're in the battleground states where these things get close. That's still an extremely impressive amount of the vote that he received in the last election.
Well, it's a broad issue. I appreciate you coming in to chat with us today. Thank you so much.
Our pleasure.
Thank you.